Hello, I'm glad you're here. I'm NatsMan, and I'm reading the Bible from the beginning to the end, from Genesis to Revelations. Please join me in this journey and make God's Word a part of your everyday life. Please hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified every time I post a new video, and that way you won't miss any parts of this Bible read. Today's video is a recap summary of the book of Job, and we will get started right now. Today, we're looking at one of the most powerful and thought-provoking books of the Bible, the book of Job. This book tackles one of the hardest questions we all face: why do we suffer righteousness? Chapters 1 and 2 are a test of Job's faith. The story begins by introducing us to Job, a man described as blameless and upright, one who feared God and shunned evil. He was wealthy, respected, and blessed with a large family. But in heaven's courtyard, in heaven's courtroom, Satan challenges Job's faith, claiming that Job only serves God because of his prosperity. God allows Job to be tested, first by taking away his wealth, his servants, and his children in one single day. Later, Job is struck with painful sores from head to toe. Through it all, Job refused to curse God. In fact, his response is remarkable. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In chapters 3 through 31, the dialogues of Job's friends, or three of Job's friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, came to comfort him, but their comfort quickly turns into debate. They believe suffering must always be punishment for sin. Eliphaz suggests that Job's suffering is God's discipline. Bildad harshly says Job's children must have sinned. And Zophar bluntly claims Job deserves even worse than what he's experiencing. Job defends his innocence again and again, and he insists he has not committed some hidden sin to deserve this. In his grief, he curses the day of his birth and cries out for answers. At times, he even pleads for a mediator between himself and God. Yet, in the midst of his despair, Job makes one of the most hopeful declarations of the entire Old Testament. He says, "I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand on the earth." In chapters 32 through 37, Elihu's speech was a younger man named Elihu who had been quietly listening, and he finally speaks up. He rebukes Job for justifying himself instead of God. He also rebukes the three friends for failing to answer Job wisely. Elihu suggests that suffering can be used by God as a way to teach and refine, to turn people from wrongdoing and to deepen their faith. His focus is that God's wisdom is greater than ours, and his purposes go far beyond what we can understand. In chapters 38 to 41, God answers. And at last, God himself speaks to Job out of a whirlwind. But instead of explaining Job's suffering, God asked Job a series of questions. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Can you command the morning? Do you give the horse its strength? God then describes mighty creatures like Behemoth and Leviathan, powerful beings that no man can control. The point is clear. If Job cannot even begin to grasp or control creation, how can he possibly understand the fullness of God's wisdom and plans? This encounter humbles Job, and he realizes that he has spoken without full knowledge. He acknowledges God's greatness and admits, "Surely I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know." In chapter 42, Job's restoration. In the final chapter, Job repents not of secret sin that caused his suffering, but of questioning God's justice. God then rebukes Job's three friends for misrepresenting him and requires them to offer sacrifices. Job prays on their behalf, and God accepts Job's prayer. In the end, God restores Job's fortunes, giving him twice as much as he had before. He blesses Job with more children, long life, and renewed honor. The story closes with Job living out his days in peace and blessing. So, what did we learn from this book? What were the lessons? One, suffering isn't always punishment. Sometimes the righteous suffer, and not because of sin, but for reasons beyond our understanding. Two, God's wisdom is greater than ours. We can't always see the full picture, but God's purposes are sure. Three, faith endures trials. Job's story shows us how to hold on to God even in the darkest seasons of life. And four, hope in a Redeemer. Job's longing points forward to Jesus Christ, the true Redeemer who suffers with us and for us and who promises ultimate restoration. A closing thought is that the book of Job doesn't give us all the answers about suffering, but it does point us to the one who holds the answers. It reminds us that even when we don't understand, God is sovereign, God is wise, and God is faithful. That ends the recap summary of the book of Job. I want to thank you for joining me in this project, in this endeavor to read the entire Bible. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed reading it. Please feel free to comment if you'd like, and also give this thumbs up and subscribe and share if you enjoy it. If this is your first visit to NatsMan Reads the Bible, I leave a link in the description below to the intro video that explains what I'm working to accomplish here. I hope you come back for the next video, and until then, thank you. I hope you have a blessed day. I'm NatsMan, and I'm out.